All right. So, all right. So it's been a while since I kind of gave everybody an update on my career. So I want to let you know what's going on, what I've been doing. I don't think I talked about what I've been doing, what I did in the first video of the Per Scholas video, and so yeah. So let's just get into it. I don't really know how to do the intros and stuff like that. I don't know. Um, so let's go to the curriculum. So what I have, pulled up right now is the curriculum of what Per Scholas is currently doing right now, and I want to talk about some things I think that they can do better, that are better prepare learners. So if you're somebody, let's say, planning to go to Per Scholas and you've been accepted, like a lot of people said in the comments of the old video, or you just somebody looking, I think what I say will kind of better prepare you to get into cybersecurity, and it'll also better prepare you for Per Scholas. But if the goal is like, yeah, after Per Scholas, I want to get a job or be a little bit more competent, I think you should do a lot more. And let me just talk on it a lot more. The reason I'm going through the curriculum is the curriculum and giving some kind of some guidance. I think a lot of people go to Per Scholas thinking it's the only thing that they have to do, right? Like they think I'm going to go to class, I'm going to have the instructors tell me exactly what to do. I go to sleep and that's it. No, and that's not really how you should be thinking. Basically, you should be thinking, okay, this is curriculum one. This is the curriculum. This is week one. And when I'm done with class, I should be spending another X hours. I would say as much time of your free time that you have whenever you going through Per Scholas. So let's say I think it's 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 or whatever it is. If you're doing Per Scholas from 9 to 5, you may take an hour nap or take care of your kids or whatever you have to do. But I think you should spend an additional, if you can, 2 to 3 hours on supplemental learning. So let's just jump in and I'll tell you what I mean. So I went through it briefly just to see what they was doing. It's the same. All right. So if you see the curriculum here, this is the cybersecurity program. You see, got the hands-on training, career development, etc. But I want to go through week one. So week one we have where it's virtualization and Linux essentials. And so you have introduction to Linux, operating systems, working in Linux, open source software and licensing. And you can read the rest. Basically, what I think here is, I think when you get accepted in Per Scholas, this is my opinion on week one. I think Per Scholas should send each learner, when they accept, the Linux essentials. I think you should just start to learn that on your own. And there's plenty of free resources. So I think you should really dive deep and start to spend hours. So let's say you got accepted and it's a month from now, or it's 2 weeks from now. I think you should start working on self-learning and spending all your free time learning just Linux essentials. Like here, where you have navigating the file system, you should know these things or have a good idea of that, and the command line going in, just the essentials, just the basics. So you saw these things before, because it's going to help you, right? So I think in week one, I think we should move week two up, maybe to week one, and to go a little bit deeper into Linux, right? So, and if so, that's for the technical stuff. Professional development, we'll just leave it as that. Creating your brand, they'll do a good job in talking to you on how to get better at that. But for the technical stuff, you should really get familiar with Linux. All right, and so not saying you're gonna learn everything, but just get through the essentials. So I think Per Scholas again should send a pre-learning to students, right? So that's week one. Week two, right? The students knowing Linux, you have basic scripting, understanding computer hardware, where data is stored, network configurations, etc. This part, I think this is where it should be week one. You should be coming in, and then now, hey, you got all that Linux done. Maybe, you talk over some things that was kind of like, I think like maybe day one, week two, you go over the essentials to make sure everybody's up to speed like they should be. But week two, the rest of the week, we should be doing some scripting, understanding, computer hardware and such. Another thing is, I think from week one, right? Soon as you start in Per Scholas, I think we should be talking about cybersecurity. So if we're talking about scripting, we should be talking about scripting also, while we learn it in the context of like cybersecurity. When we're talking about Linux essentials, we should be talking about, well, okay, this is Linux, but what will make something that's, normally benign malicious, right? So I think we should really get in the mindset when we're learning these concepts, like in this case, Linux on week 1 and 2, we should be talking about security concepts as well. Because as you will see, they tend to put a lot of pretty much all the security, things in towards the end, outside of some firewall stuff. But I think we should talk about security concepts from day one, right? Why this may be bad and things of that nature. Okay. Now another thing, professional development. Okay, that's good. So let's just go past Linux, because we can talk about that a lot, and why I think it's really important. It's really important that you should know Linux for everything in security, because when you start talking about servers, cloud, and all of these things, it comes back to Linux. So get familiar with Linux. I think you should be really spending a lot of time with that in the beginning, and you'll be up to speed pretty fast. Now week three, we have the network essentials. For me, networking was harder than everything else, because just to get the concepts and things of that nature. So it took me a little while with networking. So I think what I did was I spent a lot of time outside of Per Scholas really going through like networking concepts. So here on day one, it says, networks in our daily lives and things of that nature, communicating on local area network. We should be talking about here as we learn it. You might not even know, but we'll talk about security concepts, because we'll revisit these things later. But in networking, we need to get networking down. But as we're getting it down, we need to talk about, how, again, benign things could be malicious and lie. So that thinking, right? That that security analyst thinking is always in the back of our mind. So from day one, we thinking, okay, hardened systems, what does bad or good network traffic is. And it don't have to be that deep, but it can be something simple, but we need to be really jumping in on these things. So let's say you was in Per Scholas in week 3, you was like, oh man, networking was so tough, and you didn't go over any security concepts. Then it's on you. You should look up some security concepts and do some self-learning, because you're going to touch on it later. Make sure you're doing self-learning as you learn the fundamentals. This is what I think, in my opinion. I think as you go, you should be learning some of this fundamentals. I keep drilling that, but let's go. So building a home network, super cool. I think network security, when you start going over network security and configuring Cisco devices, yeah, this is great. Testing and troubleshooting, great. But remember, this, I think we should really focus on understanding how traffic flows, and with building a home network, really understanding how things communicate with each other. But again, this network security, we need to make sure we touch on it after class, after we get a lot of these networking concepts down. I would say keep going over like your labs and things, but think about security. How could this be hacked? You might not know, so you do a lot of Googling, and we just call it research. You do a lot of research and figure out how malicious, how hackers will try to get into a system, and just read, and eventually you'll find what kind of source you like the best and things of that nature. Professional development. Okay, we're gonna just go past the professional development. I think Per Scholas do a really good job at professional development. I mean, I went to college for finance, and we had professional development courses. And when I compare Per Scholas to our program, I think it's on par. So they, at least who I had, they did a really good job with the professional development. So it's no need to. I don't have anything to critique there. I think it's really good. And week five. Week five is really cool. I enjoyed dealing with the firewalls when we did it. I tell you what, before even starting Per Scholas, I had did a lab on firewalls. I did a networking lab. Before starting, I was already looking at the curriculum and doing a lot of these things on my own. So and I did get like valedictorian of like the whole thing, right? So, and I think I can contribute that to really like pre-learning. And this is a sidebar, but I took the Security Plus right before going to Per Scholas and pass. So I was like, I did a lot of self-learning, especially when I knew, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I say again, really start learning stuff before you get there, because when you get to the class, you can start asking questions to get a deeper understanding, and it'll put you a little bit above the competition, and not just in a class, above people who's trying to get into the field of cybersecurity. So, all right, so let's talk about week five, Windows Server, and you have the firewall training. This is a really good time to really focus on, the firewall and the things of that nature, but also focus on security concepts and, what, especially when you think about, oh, do I have certain ports and things open? And if you do, then what can be the, I guess we'll say, the consequences. So this will be good. Windows Server, this is all good. I think this is something you should really focus focus in on. But in my opinion, I think you don't forget Linux and networking. So every day, even after you learn this firewall stuff, which you'll need to know some networking for, and Windows Server, make sure every day you touching on, especially the networking, and you touching on Linux, meaning you're just doing some things with Linux. Okay, I know I keep kind of really saying some of these things over, but I want to just bring it home and say that you should really don't forget the things that you learned earlier, and don't, when you're done with class, be done with class. No sleeping. It's going to be hard. I think it should be hard, and I think you should spend a lot of time on it if you really want to get a career in cybersecurity. So let's go to week 6. I keep sidebarring. So week 6, looking at the curriculum. Okay, it says cybersecurity. See here, you're talking about the essentials in week 6. No, should be week 0 all the way to now. We should be talking about, so word of experts and criminals. All right, so I think here you should already know at a high level these concepts, right? If you're looking at this and you haven't, let's say, if you just got accepted, or you plan on doing one of these boot camps, any boot camp, but Per Scholas, since we're talking about it, look at this stuff and start learning this stuff. Just the idea, just to get some things going. You might not know. You might look into something and say, wrong, like attacks, threats. What is that exactly? Look it up and try to figure that out on your own. So when you get even to the Linux part, you have an idea of what you're going to be doing as a cybersecurity professional and things. So I think this, again, I said the same thing, but week 6, you have the cybersecurity essentials. This was my favorite week. This was my favorite part of the boot camp, just really getting into the cybersecurity essentials and kind of like putting it all together and seeing it from like taking a step back and really saying, oh, firewall, network, and Linux, and how it kind of comes together. And if you have your home lab, you can really play around with this stuff, right? I use VMware, And so I have like a small Active Directory. I have another server that's another Ubuntu server, and I have a Pi. So I play around and change a lot of the stuff, change the operating systems a lot depending on what I want to learn. So if you have a home lab, you can really drill a lot of points home. But if not, you can also do it because they have the software in the course. So yeah. So let's go to week 7. So week 6 is, it's fun. So week 7 all the way to 13, you just kind of preparing for, the CISA, you say CYSA. Here's where a lot of people, I feel, just didn't focus at all. So you got week 7 all the way to 12, where you're just focused on trying to pass this exam, and you're not really paying attention to actually learning your hands-on skills, if that makes sense, right? So I think at this point we should be, you study all day, right? I mean, study all class or whatever and try to pass this thing, but really make sure you still doing practice questions, you still revisiting your Linux and doing practice problems where you're solving problems, you're networking, or you're doing practice problems where it's deal specifically with networking and firewalls. With the firewall things, I would say do your networking, Linux, then firewalls, right? If you had to spend time on one, for me, I would say spend a lot of time on networking, and because while you're doing networking, you probably touch a little Linux, then your Linux, and then your firewall stuff, right? So, but every day I think you should be touching all of these things, right? I think you should be touching all of these because after you do your training, let's say you're done for the day in week 7, time to go. You spend another 2 or 3 hours, if not more, right? I really want to say 4 or 5 hours, but I know people might complain like, oh, you don't have no life, but I spend a lot of time when I'm doing it. But I think after a class, I think 3 hours is if you really trying to jump careers, it's not a lot to ask. I think, put another 3 hours in. If class is 8 hours, you should, another 3 hours is not asking for much, right? And so, so I didn't have, bring these down because this is all training, right? This is you doing your professional development and things. That's great. But make sure you're getting those concepts in. And I would say another thing I didn't add, I would say interview questions and preparing for interviews. I think you should do that after every week, not after every week, every day. Just come up with 1 or 2 interview questions. If you can do more that you think people will ask you, just search the internet and see, can I answer this question, right? Because then you won't. Then as you're going through the program, you will say, oh, okay, I can see why they asked me this, or I can, or you can better understand some of the interview questions, and then you'll be able to answer them at the end, no problem. So, and then that'll also make you start learning more of the technical stuff. When you start reading these interview questions, like, oh, let me go read up on that because, I don't know what they're talking about. Or you might say, I have an idea, but I couldn't answer this, and it'll make you study that part more. So I'll do that every day too. Every day, go over some interview questions. Ask your instructor, do they have some interview questions that they've been hearing from past classes? But just make sure you getting ready, and then professional development will get you ready for looking good and talking and getting your pitch down. That's the beginning. But when it's time to talk, a little technical and things of that nature, make sure you practice that on the side. Python and cloud. We didn't do any of Python and cloud. I guess this is in the course, but we didn't do any of this stuff. I would say, I know I'm adding a lot, but if you can do Python every day throughout this, like 1 hour. So that's outside of the 2 to 3 hours I said, 1 hour every day, just starting off. Just do your hour code every day. You don't have to know it like crazy, especially now with the ChatGPT and all these other things. I think you can just make sure you understand just the basic things, like just the basic things, like just Python essentials. There's plenty of free courses on there. on that, and just go through just the essentials to understand how the code look, how you might write a script. If you got time for that, I would say this is important. At some point, Python is going to be important to me, or some coding language, just to understand it, even if it's just to be able to read it. I would do this, the Python. Yeah, I would do Python for sure, at least for 1 hour. So not at 2 to 3 hours, say 3 to 4 hours after after you finish the boot camp. And I still think that's a lot of time. I think you should be spending more like 5 or 6. Because if you start, especially if you, let's sidebar. Let's say if you start class at 9, right? I think you should be, and it's over at 5. I don't know how the travel goes, but if it's remote, I think you should eat, maybe take a nap for 30 minutes to an hour, especially if you're not working. And you should be back on this until you about to fall asleep. So it should be no hangout, no all of that TV stuff. The TV stuff, it's either going to be TV and nap or nap, for an hour, maybe 2. But I think you should get back to it to and work through the night. Or work out. I'll say go do a quick workout or something too. Maybe an hour workout, hour nap. So that's 2 hours. So you got time to do to study the rest of the night. I don't know, figure that out. But I can put together a schedule too. Just ask me. I'll put together a killer schedule. You can get your workout in, get your meals in, and you don't need an hour nap. You get a 30-minute nap, and maybe some 30-minute to an hour TV show, depending on when you need to wake up and all that. But anyway, yeah, so you can add Python and make sure you're doing that in terms of understanding why would you need it for security, right? Do I want to make something more efficient? Do I want to be do I want to create a script to do something malicious? So you just be thinking about these things, and make sure you come up with a Python project too. I did a Python project, and there was like some email. I think it was like an email project where it dealt with Python. So I had to write some code. So again, even before Per Scholas, I was learning to write Python. So I think for a while too. So I think just doing it, you don't have to be a pro, but make sure you understand it, and then you'll be good. So week 14. So when it comes to and then the cloud, I didn't mention cloud. I think, I don't know, whatever they have for you, then just do. I know we work in cloud a lot, but that might be a lot to add on what you're already going. I think you can learn cloud on the job when you get there. But if you have time, yeah, go for it. But I think as long as you have all of network and Linux and some Python, those fundamentals really down, when you get to the cloud, especially when you get to the cloud, you'll need those fundamentals. Okay, so yeah, so let's go. And then, but again, I didn't do that when I was there. So week 14 and 15, the capstone was really fun. Probably I had a lot of fun doing it. I spent a lot of time on my project. Something that we didn't do that you haven't seen in this curriculum is, I think you should really, really, really learn email analysis. I think an email analysis project, you should do an email analysis project. And I'm talking about, it'll be a pretty time consuming project, right? But look, you got week 14 or 15. It's plenty of time if you're working on it all day. At a high level, I think you should create a server, use iRed, I think it's iRed Mail. Then you should create, let's say, some fictitious employees and things like that. Set up a phishing server. What I use when I did it, it was I think it was GoFish. So set up GoFish and practice on understanding. There's some other things too. You have to know some DNS, and you have to know how to set up. You'll need a domain. So you'll need a domain. I use 2 domains, but you need a domain. You need to make sure you set up the settings to, like, I think it's MX records and things of that nature. it's quite a setup. I can write this out to somebody interested in the project, but it's you just basically what I'm saying is set up a server to where you have a malicious actor sending malicious email to your fictitious um, employees on the server, another server where you set up IRED mail, and then do the analysis that way just to see how like a malicious attacker would do. And from there you can understand how to write reports. Oh, I need to talk about that. You can understand how to write reports. So I would do a email analysis course. Make sure I understand when you do get a malicious email, what are the artifacts that you're looking for, and make sure you can pull out those artifacts by just taking the original email or the .ml file and searching through that email and making sure you can write a report based on the artifacts that came through, right? So I would come up with something like business email compromise, and then I would write a report based on that, right? And you can, yeah. The reason I say set up your own servers and stuff, because this allow you to use your Linux and networking knowledge that you gain, and then you can harden your server, right? Harden your server. Now you understand, when you understand what harden the server means, when the server is weak, you will be able to assist with that and give recommendations on why something's happening or how to harden the server. And it'll be something good you can put on your resume. So as part of your project, you can put, hey, I set up this server, I hardened it, I set up, I read mail, and you can just really talk about the project. It'll be really cool. And so yeah, so that's one project. If you don't want to go through all that, I would just say learn how to do email analysis, because I don't think they talk about it in Per Scholas, and you see that a lot. If I'm not mistaken, email is still one of the main ways that attackers get into systems. So you should learn that, right? Definitely learn that. Definitely look into that the first day and understand what artifacts we look at. Just understand how we take care of that as security professionals. All right, so the capstone. Just do something that's going to be hard. I think you should do something that's going to be hard. You have 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I mean, you're working on this. Again, you're working on it for 10, 12, 13 hours a day. So you should be able to finish this and really get everything ready and present it really well. Okay. Now, so that's that. I think I talked about everything when it comes to Per Scholas and what I think, right? But I didn't give my update, and this video is really long. I guess I'll just make another video. I'll cut this on and talk about what I do and kind of what I do at work without saying too much. And then what I'll do is just, I'll make that one a little quicker. All right. So, thanks. If you got any questions, if I didn't cover something, if you didn't understand anything, I'll answer the question. Oh, one question that I wanted to answer that I didn't answer. It was a question I thought was interesting. Should I quit my job if I'm doing Per Scholas? Okay. No, I'll answer that. I'll answer that later. All right. Have a good one. Thanks. Peace.